Hello humans, Batsy here with another video. As you probably noticed from the title of the video, I kind of broke the server. Ever since I changed the host, having to migrate all the server files to the new one, and later on updating many mods when 𝐋𝐢𝐳𝐤𝐬 0.5.1 came out, that the server has been acting up. For the most part, it has been minor crashes from corrupted blocks, especially since the create update. Things like random deployers or other create blocks that would sometimes crash the client or even the server. The fix for most of them was fairly simple, just remove that block, and either place it back or get rid of it, problem solved. But last night, while leaving my PC AFK for the night, a chunk got so corrupted that it crashes the second anyone goes near it. In general, it's not too big of a deal, I can simply revert it back to the last backup, and it would be like new. But the problem still is that the save is getting so corrupted, that even things that weren't crashing before are starting to cause issues, and there is no telling how many other chunks will get corrupted the same way. So, instead of adding another band-aid to the problem, I decided to do something else. But before any of that, let me show the humans the last moments in the server. In the last episode, I left it after finishing digging the perimeter and placing the tinted glass roof. The idea behind the roof was to make the pit seem like it's infinite. By reducing the light as much as possible, and adding a completely black background, it will be near impossible to guess where it ends, and how big it really is. Kind of like an outer space vibe, but because shaders add the underwater fog and all of that, it will become an endless pit. For the first step, I decided to start painting the walls with black concrete. In hindsight, I should have started by fixing the walls, but I wanted to see how it would end up looking beforehand. The point of the black background was to give the sense that the wall isn't there, and all of those holes were ruining the effect. So, obviously, the next step was to patch all of the holes in the wall. The technique I used was to have a world edit brush with any gravity block, ideally with an air mask so it's a bit more clean. Then, by applying the sand in the hole, it's going to fill it up, but the rest is going to fall into the ground, leaving us with a clean patch that we can edit later on to be a different block. This is particularly good for situations like what I have right now, where the wall isn't completely flat, and it would require too many selections to do with the replace command. With the wall patched, I started painting it again. I used another sphere brush with black concrete, and I set the mask to just the sand so I don't run into any problems. The perimeter was starting to look really amazing. Maybe I would need to adjust shaders a little bit so the fog looks a bit more homogeneous, but so far the effect was looking quite amazing. The next thing I made was using 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 to top the black concrete. It made the transition a little bit better. The contrast was still pretty big, but having a block with more texture to frame the flat blackness of the concrete was the ideal touch. The last detail I wanted to add for now was making a sea lantern outline at the bottom of the pit. A really cool effect with sea lanterns is to place a row of them one block inside the wall and surround that with black tinted glass. It especially looks good underwater, and it works best when using a connected sea lantern texture. But the humans will see later on how cool that effect is. There will be a glow coming out of the wall that should only brighten the floor. So, with music in the background and plenty of time later, I finished the last step of the perimeter. Without the water and the tinted roof, it doesn't look as epic, and the outline light is barely visible, but my plan was to reveal the final product when everything was done in the SMP. That really didn't go as planned. Nonetheless, it was time to import this schematic to the SMP. Obviously, it wouldn't fit on a single one, so I made 6 different schematics for the walls, and 1 schematic for the ground plus the lanterns. I spent several hours producing black concrete, which was basically transforming wood into charcoal and then into black dye, and just grabbing sand plus gravel from the industrial district to do the rest. It literally takes a single mixer to produce concrete with a shapeless recipe, so I didn't bother to record that part. Used the same sand to smelt it into glass, and the black dye to make black tinted glass. And a whole lot of lapis to make all of those lanterns, like a bajillion lapis. The only block left for the perimeter was the sculk for the floor, which turned out to be incredibly simple to produce. This is where this machine comes into play. Something needs to die close to a sculk catalyst in order to generate a sculk charge. That charge will travel through sculk blocks and its variants. Converting certain types of blocks into sculk if possible, or simply covering them with sculk veins if it can't. Stone is one of those blocks that can be converted into 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬, so I needed two things. A lot of stone, and mobs to die in a specific place. The obvious solution was using silverfish. It already needs stone as part of the process, and it spams a lot of mobs which will trigger the 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 very frequently. The first part is a simple silverfish generator, with a belt to move them to where I want them. At the end of the belt, I placed a mechanical saw, which is going to insta-kill them. Alright, we have mobs constantly dying in this corner, now what? Well, two things are needed, a catalyst, and 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬. So, I placed a catalyst over there, and a row of 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 to channel the charge towards this corner where all the stone will get placed. The charge is directional, so I made a couple of channels to make sure it distributes a bit more homogeneously, well, to the degree of what's possible. Those rows of 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 are also insulated with glass and trapdoors so the charge doesn't go everywhere, spreading 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬 in all directions. Not only that would make a mess, but that will also spread the charge in all directions, reducing the number of times that it reaches the actual farm. Once the charge does reach the farm and converts all the stone into 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 blocks, there are deployers underneath with diamond hose to farm all the 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬 for us. Which obviously, they all need silk touch, otherwise we would only get the EXP from them. And you might be thinking, surely you didn't craft 27 diamond hose and enchanted them all, surely. Well, that's exactly what I did. And yes, it did take quite a while. When a deployer mines a block, it will be part of the deployer's inventory, so all it's left to do is set a chute underneath with a filter to not remove the hose, and we got ourselves a fully functional 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 farm, which sometimes might give 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐬 veins too. After importing this design to the SMP, and crafting the hundreds of thousands of blocks I needed for the perimeter, between the concrete and everything, I grabbed 7 different cannons, several vaults to store the materials, and left it AFK through all the night. At some point during the process, is when one of the chunks got corrupted, which didn't cause a crash until I came back in the morning, weirdly enough. When I came back to resume the cannons that were likely out of gunpowder, I immediately crashed, and the entire server with me. Why did it happen? Well, it's modded Minecraft, it's not unusual by any means for saves to corrupt, especially in servers. Other than that, I'm not fully sure why the world got so unstable, but it certainly was after migrating to a new host and updating to 5.1. Those two changes really took a toll on the stability of the save. And like I said at the start of the video, I know I could go back to a previous backup. At that point, I could simply prevent that chunk to get corrupted from being half-loaded for so long, and continue with the SMP, but the save is so scuffed by now, that is causing more problems than it's worth, and it's only going to get worse from here. It also gives a chance to start anew, which is always refreshing. That leaves us with the obvious announcement. I will be launching a new season soon. By soon meaning next week. During the weekend, and through next week, I will be polishing the mods, the server, and everything in between. With the help of one of my supporters, I will be deploying the server during next weekend. That will include a completely clean installation of Ubuntu and everything related to the server. Which is likely not needed, but I want to make sure the server is in the best condition. It shouldn't take more than a day or two, so the server will be launching by Monday, most likely. I will make an announcement at some point next week when I have a more concrete time on when is going to happen. But until then, I will leave the humans with this cool cinematic with everything that was made during the first season of the SMP. I'm incredibly grateful to everyone that was part of it, and to those that will stay for the new one. It was an amazing journey, and I couldn't be any happier with how things turned out to be. Thank you for being part of my community.